During our course, our sage and wonderful guide, Fanis, pictured here, um, whenever she would talk about Jesus, would always use Jesus's Hebrew name, his original name, Yeshua. And this really struck me. It made me think about why don't we use Jesus's given name more often? Because Jesus actually, that name is the anglicized version of Yeshua. It's the European, white European version of Yeshua. And so listening to Fanis talk about Yeshua got me thinking about the ways in which we as white people, through our language, often think about Jesus as white, and then how that starts to shape what we think about ourselves as white people and our moral legitimacy, even on a subconscious level. And then it also made me think of a novel that C.S. Lewis wrote in 1942 called The Screwtape Letters. And if you're not familiar with the Screwtape Letters, in this novel, C.S. Lewis writes from the perspective of a senior demon by the name of Screwtape, who's writing letters to a junior tempter named Wormwood. And Screwtape is giving Wormwood advice about how to corrupt the soul of Wormwood's human, whom they also call the patient. And it's a really fascinating work in that it's like theology in reverse. It makes me think of those negatives of pictures, those old, negatives when we used to use film, where everything in the picture is reverse. Everything that is light is dark, and everything that's dark is light. And it's really that way in this novel. Whenever they're talking about the patient, they're talking about the human. And whenever they're talking about the enemy, they're actually talking about God. And I I began to think about the ways in which white supremacy could almost belong in the drama of the Screwtape Letters, because the ways it has infiltrated every part of our society and our conscious and our psyche. I mean, even if we're not intentionally ever, seeking to be mean or degrading to people of other ethnicities or races, white supremacy is really just sort of like hardwired into our culture in North America. And it begins to shape the way we think about ourselves as white people, our moral legitimacy, and also it shapes the way we view our Savior, Jesus. And so I wrote this poem as I was trying to sort of process some of these thoughts. And I wrote it from the perspective of Screwtape. I took a cue from C.S. Lewis. I'll read it for you now. Cut to Screwtape, scrawling the latest missive to his submissive nephew. Wormwood, you fool, make that sad sack creature of yours think his Savior is the same color as him, that his skin the same cream as the oil and pastel smudged across an ancient painting of deity means he is righteous by default. Then will come the white robes and flaming crosses, the mangled bodies hung from trees, the horror of red and blue lights flashing across the night, eyes that stalk and thoughts that stalk too, that keep the menace of terror pure as crack running through veins, crackling down neighborhood lanes like jagged panes of glass shattered by rocks and notes tied up with string. All this for the false note of cozy fireplaces and safely manicured lawns that sparkle an unearthly green, as if your patient has conjured it all from his fingertips, that light touch. Thank goodness we demons don't have to contend with skin, the smell, the grit, the film, the pitiful way it sours and puckers like fruit gone to rot. Better yet, to make your patient believe that this epidermis he is cursed to live in holds the moral dynasty of the enemy. Don't let him remember for a moment that his Savior's name is actually Yeshua, shudder, a brown name for a brown Messiah, lynched.